Hey guys, welcome to Beyond the Weight Room podcast. Today we have me and Ryan going over some topics, but first he just informed me that he has something special to ask me.
So I thought, I thought about the would you rather from Dave last week, and it was, would you rather burn to death, freeze to death, or drown to death? If you've watched Society of the Snow, I don't know if you've seen that yet.
No,
I no longer have freeze to death at the top of my answer. You should go watch it. It's on Netflix. It is about the 1972 Uruguayan rugby team that crashes in the Andes.
That's crazy.
You should go watch it. It's
so. What's your
answer?
Watch
it before you fly. Don't watch it before you fly.
What's your answer?
I would go drown, and then it's still a toss-up, but freeze to death is no longer at the top of my list.
Burn to death. That was what Dave picked, right? Burn to death.
Yes.
What the fuck is wrong with that guy? I think he's got some problems.
But
we were gonna have him on. We were gonna have him on today, but he didn't want to hang out with us. He's at lunch, so he can't even defend himself here.
Messed up, but he just decided to not show.
Yeah, I'm still sticking with freeze death. So good luck with all that.
I want to know your opinion after you watch.
All right, so we're going to get into a bunch of different topics today. Kind of just went through a list of various polarizing topics within the strength and conditioning, the nutrition world, rehab world, all the different stuff. Some of them me and Ryan have separate opinions on. We have, I think some of the things are kind of in between. They're not good or bad, but just kind of wanted to go down the list and just talk about our views on certain things. I think the first one, which I know we all know is super, super popular right now, but it's been around for pretty much the entire time I've been in strength and conditioning, is just doing contrast baths, or not even contrast, but like saunas, so heat therapy, and ice, so cold immersion therapy. Ryan, I know you guys utilize that a little bit on your side too. Tell us kind of what you guys do.
Yeah, so at the spring training facility, we have all the resources possible. So there's a sauna, there's tubs. At the affiliates, we have cold tubs as well. That's more of just like you actually have to scoop ice in. But we push guys to find recovery modalities that work best for them. So a lot of guys kind of tend to go towards the ice. We don't really have access to saunas during the season unless guys find somewhere else. But personally, I use a sauna pretty much every day. I would say, averaged out 5 days a week, I'll be in the sauna for 20 to 40 minutes a session. I don't think it requires that long to be in there. I just like to really sweat. And that's one way I like to start my morning and not be distracted on my phone because I can't get service in the sauna. So it's kind of like a me time before I start the day.
Is that why you're picking burn to death over freeze to death on the would you rather now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it. Makes sense.
Especially
but yeah, I think with ice baths and saunas, I know when we first started doing them, again, when I was like an intern with the ski team, like close to like 15 years ago, the way it was kind of taught to me, I guess, and it wasn't even in school, it was after school, was more or less with the contrast training. So contrast, not trainings, but contrast therapy, going cold and then going to the sauna. It was kind of taught to me like you're expanding those blood vessels, constricting those blood vessels, changing really like the temperature of the muscle structure to kind of almost pump new blood flow in. Since then, a lot of the science has shown that like the temperatures of like those tissues really aren't changing themselves. So I think that the thought process behind why it worked wasn't necessarily right at that time. But at the end of the day, I would always do that stuff. There's still science that's like conflicting, or it shows it might work, it might do this, it might do that. But at the end of the day, like I feel better after I do ice baths. I feel better when I do saunas and stuff. I know my athletes do. As long as you're staying within normal parameters, it's not going to be bad for you. So I'm always been big about, like you said, if this stuff makes you feel better afterwards, go ahead and do it. Even if it is placebo effect, or at the end of the day, like jumping in an ice bath or getting in a sauna might just be a time where you aren't doing anything, which is very beneficial.
We, I guess when we talk about contrast training, we typically use like a 2-to-1, spend two minutes in the hot, 1 minute in the cold. You can just like vary tubs back and forth. That makes it pretty easy to do. But I think like, a lot of guys are drawn to tub for more than one reason. I know like Goggins and Row the Boat and all this stuff, like guys get attached to that psychological thing. But like there is something to be said for doing something extremely hard early in the morning, starting your day off that way, which is when most of our guys do it. It's the first thing they would do when they get to the field that day is get in, do the tub for 8 to 10 minutes, whatever, if they're building up 2 to 3, and then go about their day. I think there's something emotionally and mentally for that. The physical stuff, like I do think guys, whether it's a placebo effect or not, like they like the feeling that they have with total water immersion. I know just from talking with guys and then my own experience, sometimes we'll go in and do 5 minutes of cold tub in the morning, and then we'll go work out. And like, man, like if you're doing something like high rep, whether it's lightweight, whatever, like you can get some pretty nasty pump. And I think some of that is like, do those blood vessels actually dilute? Then you expand rapidly. Nitric oxide gets into the blood flow, goes to the muscle. So you feel more of that like pump feeling. I don't know whether or not that's true. I'm not like super up to date with like cold tub or water immersion, but I think there's something to be said for that placebo effect in the benefits.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think it's to the point where people need to go out and spend, I mean, unless you have the resources, but go out and spend thousands of dollars on a cold tub, which is crazy to me. I have a deep freezer in my garage that I've converted to one. Haven't been electrocuted yet. So
yeah.
Good. I unplug it now, so we're good there. But, you know, like you said, I think a lot of the benefit is mentally getting yourself to just do something difficult in the morning. It doesn't have to be cold plunge. It can be working out. Tons of people feel better when they work out in the morning, probably for that reason, also to get the blood flowing and stuff. There's no doubt that hopping in something that cold is going to wake up your CNS. So if you're getting out of bed and you're groggy, you're going to be awake after that. If you do like doing, like I was saying earlier, or alluded to earlier, like the meditation type thing and like being in the moment, when you're in a cold bath, like that you're there. You're not thinking about other things that are coming up that day or issues you had yesterday. You're in that moment. So I think for me personally, I really enjoy it because of that. Like I get up in the morning and it's something difficult. It's something where I'm not thinking about what I have going on in the day. I'm in that moment and it's quick, right? Especially something with a cold plunge. It's, 3 to 5 minutes, maybe. You hop in, hop out, dry off, start your day. When I was in Utah, I used to do jujitsu in the mornings, same kind of thing, like going in and getting the shit beat out of me by some black belts in the morning for an hour. The rest of the day was pretty fucking easy.
Well, I know we've both looked into and done parts of like the Wim Hof method, which is the number one, like the breathing techniques, but also the cold exposure. And the reason he started that was because his wife died. He couldn't deal with that. And by going in the cold water, it was one of the only ways that he found like he could turn his brain off and solely focus on the one thing at hand instead of all the other grief and trauma he was living with. So, if you're someone that struggles with something like that, like I encourage you to find something, whether it's running, cold water immersion, find something that's so hard and so uncomfortable that like your brain cannot focus on something else.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of like the breathing techniques and stuff are relied on that. And there's so many different types of breathing techniques, whether it's the Wim Hof breathing methods or, I've done a bunch of others. I don't even know their names of. I've just kind of shown up at like events and done some stuff. And it's really cool way, very powerful way to feel like you're in control of your body and being able to almost like control things on a mental side, like reducing anxiety, obviously. People will naturally start breathing differently when they're anxious or when they're nervous on things. So controlling that breathing that's happening every second of the day can kind of bring that heart rate back down, bring those things back down. You can control those things. So it's really powerful. It seems, if you're not into it, it can seem like hokey almost. But if you haven't gone and done like a breathing program with somebody, I would highly suggest like going in and just trying it with an open mind because it's pretty wild. We did one. Matt Vincent runs Not Dead Yet, and he had us at his facility out here in Dogtown. His wife Bonnie ran us through, I can't remember the style that it was like hydrotopic. I'll completely botch it, but she ran us through a type of breathing method where it was almost like that Wim Hof breathing, like that deep in, that long out. And we were doing that for 20 minutes. So there was like 15 of us laying there like, so really that aggressive breathing technique. And usually when I'm doing like breath holds, I'm doing that for like 2 minutes and you start to get kind of tingly, right? But doing that for 20 minutes, you like get into a whole different like mindset, dude. You almost get like you're tripping. Like it's insane. And like stuff. It's crazy. She was like, there's like people crying next to you and stuff. And seems real hippy dippy, but it was pretty nuts. And like, I felt really, really good after. And then that night, I probably haven't slept better since, because I was like cashed. And it was 20 minutes of laying there and breathing. And it does bring up that anxiety and everything, because your heart rate's going up because you're breathing so deep, like you would if you were exercising, and your body starts getting that anxiety at one point. You have to like use your mind to control that and being okay with that anxiety. I think that helps you later in life when you have that anxiety and you realize that and you can control that. Because at the very beginning of all this, when they're talking through it, they're like, listen, if you're doing this correctly, you're going to be uncomfortable at some point. And like, all you're doing is breathing. So like, just remember that. Yeah. You just breathe, like nothing weird's happening. You're just breathing. So I think all that's kind of stuff, ice bath, sauna, breathing techniques, any of that stuff is huge.
Yeah, I'm interested. I actually, as we were talking, I have a book that I've just bought called Breath. It's by James Nestor. It's like the lost art of breathing. And it goes into more like nasal breathing when you sleep, and mouth taping, which is probably a whole nother thing that we can talk about. But like, this is a book that's talking about breath and how much we do it on a daily basis. And now it's being included in accredited nursing programs as like a required reading for them. So, breath work, I think, is like a very, very important thing. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach it, whether it's through kind of like what you did with Bonnie or something like trying to nose breathe through certain stuff. But if you're interested, there's a lot of resources out there. So what's the next topic we got?
I have branch chain amino acids.
What do you got?
Let me start. I'll let you. Do you want me to start?
We have one product that we put out for guys. I'm not like, if you're eating the right amount of animal protein, like you shouldn't need BCAAs. I think more than not, the reason people take them in their workout is because they don't like drinking just water during their workout. They want something to taste a little bit more like a Gatorade. And that's honestly where I see BCAA use the most. Again, it's one of those things I don't know enough about. I feel as if you eat enough protein and you're getting complete forms of protein, like what's the point?
Yeah. And if you don't know, BCAAs are branch chain amino acids. So basically, when you're eating some protein, your body breaks it down into all the essential amino acids that build up into protein. Those are branch chain amino acids, and they go into your body and are built back up into proteins that you need. So if I'm eating some meat, I break it down into amino acids, and then it's turned into a new protein of muscle or bone or whatever I'm trying to build up, right? Branch chain amino acids are like a synthetic just powder where it's straight branch chains. It's not the actual protein structure itself. The research, again, there's research shows it works, research shows that it doesn't. It's dicey. At the end of the day, there's 3 true legal supplements. There's plenty of illegal supplements that work. There's 3 true legal supplements that 100% every research article shows they work. That's going to be protein. That's going to be caffeine, which is a supplement, and it obviously helps you and stimulates. And that's going to be creatine. So BCAAs, kind of like you said, I don't necessarily spend money on them because I'd rather have that protein, because all the research shows the whey protein works, right? And there's research showing the BCAAs does. It might not. It might not work as well as whey. So it's like, okay, if you have one or the other, why would you not just go with your whey protein? Yeah. Unless you're having potentially stomach issues and stuff, but there's other proteins you can try besides whey too.
I'll tell you this, like look at and I could be wrong, this is my experience. Look at any professional sporting event. They have more simple carbohydrate solutions on the bench in the forms of Gatorade, Powerade, goos, gels, gummies, whatever. They have way more of that type of stuff than they have BCAAs sitting around. Yeah. So I think that tells you a little bit something about like their use intra workout.
Yeah, absolutely. So
can you name the 3 BCAAs?
No, man, I don't remember this shit. Leucine is one of them, right?
Isoleucine. So it's just leucine doing isometrics, and then valine.
Pause. Just pausing out.
Can you name how many amino acids there are?
Is it 11 or 9 essentials?
I think total.
11 total, right?
Let's look it up.
I think it's 7. Dude, you're taking me back to freaking bio.
I thought there were 26.
Maybe I'm thinking of essential amino acids. And so yes, amino acids that we need to eat. We don't produce ourselves.
There are 22.
I'm way off then.
Yeah, we were both off.
It's okay. We're all idiots, man.
Krebs cycle. But yeah.
It's not even called the Krebs cycle anymore.
That's where I stand. It's like,
we're fucking old.
If you want them, great. Otherwise, don't.
Well,
if you're strapped and you're trying to figure out what works best, don't buy amino acids.
I'm always a proponent on getting your shit in with real food over supplements, whether that's protein or not. You know, so you know, yeah, a steak might not absorb as fast as your whey protein, but I guarantee you your body is going to utilize it more efficiently at the end of the day because it's fucking what you're meant to eat. So, all right, moving on. I just wrote like mini band stuff, glute activation stuff, all that jazz. I started. Wait, who started with BCAAs? You did?
Yeah.
Fine, I'll start with this shit. Mini bands, I think, can be a good way to do warm-ups. I don't, you know, personally, the glute activation thing, I think it's more of a terminology thing for me sometimes, because I think sometimes a lot of either coaches or PTs or whoever, and maybe not even knowingly, but they kind of have those scare tactics where they're like, hey, your glutes are off, or they're not firing, or this. And those can be pretty damning statements to give to certain athletes or certain people, because everybody's going to kind of be different and think differently, right? Some of those people we know are going to just hone in on something specifically and be like, oh, like this isn't working. Why am I not working properly? And then they're going to just like fixate on that versus really, are we just going to do the mini band stuff to warm up the muscle just like we would any other muscle? I think that's more or less what we need to kind of approach it as, versus like your glutes aren't on or not firing. It's like, well, no, we just need to do some stuff to get it warmed up, just like we would for our quads, just like we would for our calves and everything else. I think mini bands and bands in general are great for that kind of stuff. If you're doing that for your main lift to get stronger in your hips and glutes, then you're definitely missing out on something, or you're potentially just super early in your rehab or workout process. But if it's like, you know, a little bit later in that workout process, you should be moving some heavier loads or resistances in some capacity.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think
we need to disagree on something. This is stupid.
It depends on where you're at.
Damn it.
So here's something we can disagree on. I recently am more, and when I say recently, the last couple of years, like I'm more in line with like, I don't spend as much time warming up. Like there's some like FRC stuff I'll do. But like this activation thing, like I kind of look as if I have squats that day, like my activation is going to be squats. Like it's a little bit more specific. Personal preference, I think, with that right there. Like I don't have a lot of time. I think time limitation kind of pushes me to just like get right into squatting instead of like spending 15 minutes warming up. I think mini bands are good. Like you said, early rehab, they're enough to stimulate. If guys want to use them for feel, just to get a feel of like what they're trying to work, like if you have poor mind muscle connection or being able to associate with like what lift's supposed to be feeling at what spot, like if I'm trying to get you to feel something more through your glutes or your upper hamstrings, okay, mini band, like that's that spot to a fatigue point to where there's sensory input and they're able to feel like, ooh, that burns right there, to give them a little bit of that like pump feel. And then they go do something where you want them to feel it through their ass. Like, sure, use mini bands in that capacity. We use them for exercises with hip flexors, I would say the most. Putting the hip flexor in isometric positions, going through some reps, like just like tissue resiliency work. I think they're good. But yeah, you're not going to get stronger. You're not going to get stronger from them.
Don't get me wrong. I use bands, mini bands every single day. I just see the almost overuse of it or over reliance on it. I think so much of the stuff we're going to talk about here today is these things come out, they do some good, and then people over rely on those things and think that like whatever that one thing is needs to be used for everything, whether it's mini bands or we're going to talk about BFR, parachute training, BCAAs, ice baths, like all that kind of stuff. I think has their places, and that's kind of the overall picture probably of today too. And it's like where do you utilize that stuff? Yeah. So I was going to talk about some speed training. We see a lot of people, especially the like Instagram guru people, that are going to be doing speed training with parachutes or bands or speed ladders or I don't even know what the hell they're called. I've seen the ones where you have like the bands attached to your wrist and like your hip and all that kind of stuff. So
you're talking more about like because I was going to say there is a distinction between like 1080 pros and run rockets and some of this flywheel resisted training, but you're talking more about like agility ladders. And
I would say all of it, just in general.
Oh, see, I think there's going to be a big difference between something like an agility ladder and a run rocket.
Yeah, talk about it.
So agility ladders, like it's like get faster feet, all that kind of stuff. Look, I think they can be used for a little bit more of a cognitive warm up. Footwork might get a little bit better because you're going to get some coordination, but like they're not going to translate to making you faster on the field. They're a constraint based model for certain types of exercise, but like if you're talking about agility in the sense of like agility you need on field, like nobody's laying a fucking ladder down on the ground to say, all right, do this and then run 20 yards. Like you have to evade defenders or get to a ball in a certain strategy. Like doing on field, like real time reaction stuff is going to be better than constraint based model of agility ladder where my eyes are looking down at what my feet are doing. Things like run rockets or flywheel training. I think parachutes, like I've never used a parachute, but I've ran with like a light sled on. I think those are great. I think those are great for a couple of reasons. Limiting ground contact force in older athletes, like taking away some of their force because they're not going to be able to apply as much if we're resisted is good. Allowing them to get into certain positions is also good. Like things break down at high speed. Let's slow them down so they can get in those positions. We've seen a lot. Like it's pretty nuts. Like guys come in, have a week, they look like completely different runners at the end of that week. And for us in baseball, like being a really good runner doesn't really matter a whole lot unless you're playing a position that's deep in the outfield or something like that, or you're a burner. But like everybody, there are things that are going to translate from being a better runner to being able to apply force more efficiently. And I think that's kind of our mindset towards that kind of stuff. The like bands around the arms and hips and shit. Like, is that the thing where you like stand on the platform? Like basketball players use it a lot.
Oh, you're talking about the crap. What are those called now? The not jump mats.
I know what you're
forever. Yeah.
I mean,
it's just a banded resisted jump is what that is.
Yeah, I guess it's just like they make it look super fancy. It's just a band resisted jump.
Yeah, I think a lot of this stuff, again, like I said, can be utilized at certain points. Speed ladders, great for warm ups, getting people going. They're easy to teach. They're fun to do for younger kids and stuff. Yep. There might be some crossover to help it with like ankle stiffness as well, but you can get that from pogos and skipping. I would personally rather get my ankle stiffness from doing skipping and marching and that kind of stuff because it's going to directly correlate to the movement patterns you're doing for speed or agility. Doing parachutes or resisted bands or resisted flywheels, like you said, all that stuff is just going to basically slow you down so you can work on potentially stride length, proper positioning, all that kind of stuff. So I think the big picture would be, in my mind, 75% of the time or not or more, like you should actually be doing the movement. You should be sprinting. You should be doing agility. That's how you're going to get faster, right? And what bothers me sometimes is like I see so much of those like speed gurus, whatever, online, and like all they're posting about is the parachute, the speed ladder, the sexy stuff, and that's like what gets all like the likes and comments and whatever. But then what bothers me even more than that is like it's not that it's getting the likes and the shares and the comments. It's like that's then what the kids who are following them that are 12, 13, 14 are going to go out and try to do. They're like, I need to do more speed ladders. I need to do more of this. It's like, dude, you need to get stronger.
Yeah.
You just need to sprint and lift probably because you're so young. So
makes me think about, we got a lot of guys in the off season who like to run in sand. And the guys that like to run in sand are typically the guys that need to apply more force to the ground. And by running in sand, they're just dissipating their amount of force that they're putting into the ground. So like, that's one that's kind of frustrating is when you see guys running in sand. It's like, what are we doing? Like, you're not getting anything out of that you specifically need based on your ability to produce force.
Maybe they're trying to get on Baywatch, man.
Maybe.
They're coming out with a new one, maybe.
I think it goes that I can't talk about.
Baywatch?
Yeah, I don't know. I said can't with an MT.
Again,
I think the general message of everything that we're talking about is you can use it, and there's probably a correct way to do it, but people do take it to the extreme and rely or fearmonger on some of these things.
Extreme. All right, blood flow restriction training. Do you guys utilize that?
Yeah, we have Delphi units at our affiliates. So guys that we have to keep in short ranges of motion or just make sure they're in good positions. Like we do a lot of that. Guys do arm flushes with that. Or they'll come in and like simulate, like I'm sure you know what manuals are. Like sometimes guys, if they come out early in a game, they'll try to simulate a little bit more work on that specific area. Like they'll throw that on and do it. It's a very increasingly common thing to see around.
You guys have them at each site?
Yeah.
Oh, that's badass.
Yeah, we got 2 of them at each site, so that can
Yeah,
kind of
Delphi units are fucking expensive.
Yep.
Those are like $5,000 or something like that.
But guys love them. Again, it's something that we don't push on guys. This is more of, and we'll have Coy on at one point, but he can talk about this a little bit more. I don't think he necessarily pushes guys to do that, but like if they're curious, he's certainly going to show them what to do. I think they're great for athletes with injuries. Say we can only work out one of their legs fully and we have to work out their other quad, for instance, but we can't do too much with range of motion. Like we'll throw them and make sure they do some of these circuits to where they're just getting fucking pumped up through their one leg.
Nice. And then if you guys don't know what exactly what BFR is, blood flow restriction training, you can check it out. You said you use Delphi units. We use smart cuffs. There's other companies as well, but you know, basically they're going to be like cuffs. They almost look like you're getting like
giving blood, yeah, or getting your
blood pressure cuffs. So it'll go on the top of the arm or top of the leg, and then it'll occlude. I can't remember what the percentage is supposed to be, but it doesn't fully fully occlude. It restricts blood flow, so you are getting like 20% blood flow back or something like that. Mm-hmm. But basically, this is something that came out that I was like, this looks like bullshit when I was a younger coach, and then I kept on seeing the research coming out, and I kept on seeing, you know, just athletes actually succeeding with this stuff too and getting stronger with it. And, you know, basically there's plenty of research now showing that if you're utilizing this, you're going to get similar hormone responses to if you were lifting above 80% of your max. So for athletes that can't, maybe because they have, like for us, I work with a lot of ACLs, we can sit there and do quad contractions on a table with no weight, or we can do body weight squats with no weight, and they're going to get similar hormone dump to if they were squatting with 80% of their max on their back. Like that's fucking crazy. And it works. It doesn't affect there's no tensile load, obviously. So it's not going to affect the tendons. So it's not going to build that strength there. So if you're only training that muscle belly and never training that tendon load, you know, there's not going to be that crossover, that carryover. There's maybe a higher potential for re-injury because of that. So again, it needs to be utilized as part of it. We use it at the beginning of rehab. That's really mainly what I saw it for. I saw it when I was with the ski team. We also used it traveling, because there'd be times we were traveling to some weird ass countries or small ski towns and there ain't shit for weight. Mm-hmm. So we'd bring like a water bag that could hold 40 pounds, BFRs and TRX straps and get after it. Because this way you can at least get something that's going to, you know, hormone wise cause a stimulus that's going to make sure they don't lose strength throughout the season. And we can at least maintain that strength. I know people utilize it, like you said, for flushes and stuff as well. I've kind of dabbled with that a little bit if I'm super sore. So really the main thing we want to do for rehab is increase new blood flow to the areas, whether that be through biking or BFR or dry needling, or, you know, you pick your therapy modality, right? But if I have super sore arms or legs and I put the BFR on, I can do a body weight workout that's not going to be taxing for me. And I'm going to get new, fresh blood flow to the area. I'm going to get increased hormone release to that area. So again, increasing healing properties, increasing healing properties, increasing healing properties. So if you haven't checked it out, they suck to do.
Yeah, they're not fun.
What we use it for, we do 30 reps, and then rest, and then 15 reps, 15, 15. And then I think we do 3 or 4 exercises, what we try to do for each area.
Yeah, sounds very similar.
Yeah, you're not supposed to have it on for longer than like 20 minutes. But yeah, if you want to feel like a pump sensation, go do an arm BFR day and your biceps will feel jacked.
Yep. What's next?
That's all I had on my list, man. Did you have any ideas? Some shit you want to talk about?
My ideas were
personally
more for our next podcast with Dave. So I'll wait for
those. Oh, we could talk about that then too. So Dave bailed on us today. Next podcast, we ended our last podcast with Dave talking about the death shit. So we thought it'd be fun to just do kind of more of an off-wall podcast, asking questions to each other, more would you rathers, some stuff when it comes to the strength and conditioning side as well, but kind of just taking it off the rails and not knowing what the hell we're talking about, but all of us having some questions. So we'll see where that goes.
All right. Yeah. Let's wrap this one up so we can go watch the football game.
Yep. Go Ravens. All right. See ya.